Sorry, Satan. I think you're in my seat. I'll start this story by saying that this is absolutely not one of my most moral moments in life, and I'm fully aware that I acted like a total asshole. The only thing I can say in my defense is that I was in a very bad place mentally and in serious need of therapy. And now, for the revenge. When I was a kid, I was a weird kid. Very weird. Mostly because I was severely abused and forcibly isolated at home. My social skills were so undeveloped that I had trouble telling human faces apart, except for my grandmother, grandfather, and father. Being the weird kid meant I was a target for bullies. It never stopped, but there was one bully I hated more than all the rest. We'll call her Holly. This girl never missed an opportunity to make my life a living hell, and since she lived right across the street from me, there was nowhere I could go to escape her. Holly treated me like garbage. Here are a few examples. She would regularly put dog shit in our mailbox. She let my dog out of the yard, and I was never able to find him again. And she would sit on her front porch with her friends and beat the hell out of me for entertainment if I so much as stepped a toe out my front door. This went on for years. I hated her with the burning passion of 1,000 suns, but as long as my grandmother was alive, I couldn't do anything about Holly. If I did something to her or tried to fight back, my grandmother would punish me for it, and I was more afraid of her than I was of Holly, for a very good reason. So, I made a plan. I endured all the abuse and promised myself that when I got older, I would make Holly pay for what she did to me. The thought of what I was going to do to her when the time was right was sometimes the only thing that kept me going. Over time, Holly grew up and eventually left me alone, having grown out of being a total bitch. But unfortunately for her, by then it was far too late. I didn't give a damn about her moral epiphany. I had been holding a grudge for 2 decades, and it was time for payback. I was going to destroy that bitch. When my grandmother finally died, it was time to act, and I'd had 20 years to prepare. I hadn't been idle while I waited. I made it my life's mission to learn as much as I could about Holly, and to do that, I befriended several people in her peripheral social circle. By the end, I knew more about her and her life than her own mother did. The first step in my plan was getting her fired from her job. This took longer than I would have liked, but I eventually pulled it off. Holly worked in a doctor's office, and the doctor was a devout Christian. A very straight-laced and upstanding man. He also had a huge amount of influence in the local community. I decided to become a patient at his practice, making my appointments on days Holly wasn't working. After a few visits, I, accidentally, noticed Holly in the staff photos on the reception wall. I acted surprised, and then concerned. I made it to the exam room, and soon the doctor came in. The look on my face got his attention, and he asked what was wrong. I told him that, while I hated to do this, as a fellow Christian, I couldn't stay silent and sleep at night, because I couldn't let him endanger his soul and his reputation through my inaction. I had his full attention. I asked him, as one Christian to another, not to tell anyone where he got the information I was about to give him. After he gave his word, I told him that Holly was using illegal drugs. He was completely shocked and didn't believe me at first. I told him I understood his skepticism, but it was easy enough to prove or disprove my claim with a drug test. If I was wrong, he lost nothing. But if I was right, he would save himself a lot of trouble down the line. He eventually agreed to test her, and everyone else, so it wouldn't look like Holly was being singled out. You see, I wasn't lying. Holly smoked a shit ton of weed, and I knew this because she got it from my dad. He'd been her dealer since she was 15. Her test came back positive for marijuana and, to my surprise, for Xanax as well. Oops. The doctor fired Holly on the spot when the P-test results came back. He then called me to thank me for the information and, before hanging up, told me that I truly walk hand in hand with the Lord. You all have no idea how hard it was not to laugh at how profoundly wrong he was. I thought a blood vessel was going to pop. Phase 1 complete. I know what you're thinking, it's just a job, she can get another one, right? Losing a job isn't the end of the world. You're wrong. Remember how I said her boss had a huge reputation in our area? This man personally called every single hospital and doctor's office in the state to make sure none of them would hire Holly and risk their position and public trust by associating with her. Holly's training was in the medical field, so her education was now useless because no one would hire her. I wasn't done yet. Nope. Not even close. She lost her job, and since she had no income, her car was repossessed. But she still had her family, 2 kids and a fiancé. Who needs families? Right. With the help of a good friend, I catfished her fiancé. My friend is a total smoke show, and she let me use her pictures to prove she was real. She even Skyped with him once. When he finally arranged to meet up in person and had booked a hotel room, I sent screenshots of everything to Holly from a burner phone. To say the shit hit the fan would be an understatement. They broke up, the whole thing was a massive ordeal, and Holly was devastated. She had 2 kids, no job, and now no fiancé to help her keep her family afloat. A normal person would have stopped by now. Unfortunately, I am not a normal person. I was in full-on scorched earth mode. I had been bleeding for her for 20 years, and there was no way in hell I was going to go easy on her. Phase 3. With her fiancé gone and her job lost, Holly was struggling badly. She needed money and fast before she and her kids were evicted. Meth is a huge problem in my area. It's a big risk, but it's also fast cash. So I started to subtly mention Holly's situation around some of my more legally dubious relatives. Eventually, a family friend, who happened to cook meth, contacted Holly and offered her a pile of cash to let him cook at her place. It was supposed to be a one-time thing. 2 days in and out. Holly was desperate, so she agreed. It was going smoothly at first, but right in the middle of the cook, someone placed an anonymous call to the local drug task force to report meth being manufactured. The cops raided Holly's house at around 3 a.m. and caught everyone, including Holly, red-handed in the middle of manufacturing methamphetamine. Watching her cry as they put her in handcuffs and loaded her into the cop car was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. She was in deep legal shit. To make matters worse, most houses where meth labs are found are later deemed uninhabitable because the toxic fumes from the chemicals used to make the drug get into everything, and cleaning it is extremely difficult and time-consuming. The property owner either has to hire a hazmat crew to clean it, or the house is seized and demolished. Cleaning a meth lab costs thousands of dollars. It would have cost more to clean than the entire property was worth. So, they tore it down, and everything Holly owned was still inside. You can't take things out of a meth lab because they're covered in toxic particles. It can make you very sick, especially small children. Everything in the house is usually disposed of. Of course, some people sneak in and take things anyway, but that's on them. And since Holly was still in jail, there was no way for her to get anything, and none of her immediate family wanted to risk getting caught stealing or trespassing on an active crime scene. Holly went to prison for a while, and while she was away, the court gave the father, her ex-fiancé, sole custody of the children. Holly only got supervised visits. 2 hours every Saturday, if I remember correctly. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and mine was ice cold. I was behind every single bad thing that happened in Holly's life, in one way or another, for 5 years. She decided she enjoyed bullying me and making my life a living hell, and that there would be no consequences. For that, I took her reputation, her job, her fiancé, got her arrested and convicted of a felony, took her children away, and the best part is, to this day, she has no idea I was the one who did it. She forgot about me. What she did to me changed my life forever, but to her, it was so insignificant that she didn't even remember me. I was a nobody to her, so she never connected me to any of her problems. Last I heard, she was in and out of rehab for alcoholism and had her parental rights permanently terminated. After losing her kids, she just gave up, crawled into a bottle, and never came back out. I was tempted to tell her, but I decided it was better to leave her helpless and confused as to why her life had suddenly imploded. This means that, from time to time, I can reach out to her and pretend to care about her problems, just to enjoy her latest misfortune. She thinks I'm the sweetest person she's ever met. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. Edit. A lot of people got the impression that what Holly did to me was minor and didn't deserve my reaction, because the things I mentioned were minor. I guess I was trying to sound less pathetic. She did far worse things to me than what I mentioned. It's just embarrassing to admit that I was so weak that she could do those things to me in the first place. She beat me up multiple times. One time, she and her friends force-fed me shit. Actual shit. No, I don't know whose. She pushed me off an embankment, and I broke a front tooth on a cinder block. The list goes on, and I don't really want to detail all of it, but suffice it to say, it wasn't just teasing. It doesn't make what I did much better, but I didn't do it over something minor. I'm a woman, by the way. Also, we lived in a trailer park. That's why the house was demolished instead of cleaned. Her trailer wasn't worth more than $3,000 on a good day. That's all the detail I'll add, as the rest might get too specific.